And we are live. So, Robert.
Yes.
The people initially watching this, the ones that'll be watching this live, know who you are, but not everybody who watches this video will know. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself? We're kind of going to talk about teaching. We're going to talk about who you are as a teacher, what you've learned as a teacher, things like that. But really just have a good chat about being a vocal coach. So tell us a little bit about who you are. What have you accomplished? Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody who's watching who came, I want to thank you guys for being here. We hope you get some value out of it. We've done a little bit of preparation and answering his question, who am I? I'm a lot of things, but relative to the show, voice coach, right? I've been teaching people how to train. I like to say not how to sing so much. It's in there. But before we can get to singing, we need to get to the training to build the motor skills and the strength and the coordination to sing better. Yes, the end goal is to sing better. But that happens, at least in my world, all my life, that happens, a lot of that happens from training, physical development. So sort of dedicated my life to developing training techniques, scales, workouts, which comes with a book, and now about 9, actually really 10 online courses in collaboration with other coaches. Javen would be one of them, by the way, that helps people to learn how to practice and get strong for singing.
Well, don't be shy in this, man. Don't be shy in this. You've accomplished a lot more than most vocal coaches. That's also why I wanted to start out this entire discussion and video series with you.
Well, thank you. What shall I say about that? I mean, the resume says the book, the 10 courses, lots of master classes, pro audio sponsors, and
Do you mind if I speak to it a little bit?
Yeah, it's a little awkward for me. Thank you.
I understand.
Compliment and all, and I'd love to share that and help others. I want to help other coaches to grow personally and in their business as well. But yeah.
Well, as founder of the Vocalist Studio, am I right in saying you have over 100,000 students now, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's incredible, man. That's absolutely incredible. And that's not in person, I understand that. But that's through the courses, through the online course, the book. Like, you have over 100,000 people that are studying the Vocal Studio methodology. That's awesome. That's incredible. You've toured the world doing master classes. Heck, you've been on foreign television and being interviewed on foreign TV, not just here in the States. That's more than most of us can say, like way more than most of us can say. I can say I've written for TV and film and stuff across the world, and that's cool and all, but I haven't built a business that is literally physically worldwide. Besides, I have students across the world. That's different than what you've done. You have more students than any vocal coach I've ever spoken to, even the top guys out there like that. So you're up there. You're on top. You're right there on top with it. And looking at TBS Vocal, the Vocalist Studio methodology itself, the main reason I came to it is looking at everything that I was trying to learn from all these other courses was there. And I kept coming back to it. So from my own perspective, you were an amazing vocal coach for me, just because it was finally a place that I could go and the answers were there. So not to talk about the methodology, that's not what this is about. This is more about you as a teacher and what you've been able to build. And to also say that you're doing other things. I do other things. I don't just teach. But you're building up other businesses as well. So not all your eggs are in one basket. And you have a big vision for what you're doing with the Vocalist Studio as well. A gigantic vision. Not only have you already teamed up with quite a few teachers. You have a lot of certified instructors under you, under the TVS. You've been building a team. You've been building a whole new online platform that we may talk about today. I don't know how much we'll get into that.
Yeah.
But that's you. Like, to place you on a pedestal for a bit, like, that's a lot. And when most vocal coaches are just getting by with a handful of students, or even those that have gone full-time into it, cap out. They can't say they've served, even over the however many years they've been teaching, they can't say they've served over 100,000 students. Most of them can't. I don't know any that can, honestly, but I'm going to hedge my bets here and say there might be some. So, what was it starting out, like getting into vocal coaching? First off, I guess let's talk about you. Where did you start? What got you to start teaching versus just being a singer?
I hadn't always been a voice coach. When I graduated from the university, I sort of went down that common path of get a job, and I was a sales and marketing guy. Worked for different technology companies for about 12 years. For example, I worked for Deutsche Telekom, T-Systems, startups, a lot of software technology companies. And I was sort of the guy that was in Seattle, Washington, that if you were a foreign company and you wanted to get a beachhead on business, in particular global accounts like T-Mobile and Microsoft in the United States, I offered a service called Convergent IT, and as a consultant, and helped companies sort of build that first beachhead for technology. So the short of it is, started in sales, technology, IT, all of that. The internet came, and it exploded, and then the bubble popped. And at that time, it was really difficult for technology people, IT sales guys like myself at that time, to find employment. Now, all along the way, while this was all going on, all along the way, I've been a singer all my life since I was 15 years old, and I've been in front of voice coaches and all of that. So that's always been sort of part of my life, singing and the arts. But when the bubble broke at the end of the 90s, I needed to pay my bills. So I bought a PA system, and I made some phone calls, and I went to the local music store. I still remember my very first voice lesson, and I started teaching. And here lies a message that I feel like I want to share with people that sort of ties into a little bit to the lovely introduction. Thank you. Is that my first voice lesson, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. Not really. I mean, I had some ideas. I was sort of teaching the things that I learned from my other coaches. That's okay. It's sort of a start. But it was, there was no methodology. There was no integrated training routines. There was nothing but just a guy that was audacious and willing to take a risk. And I've several times in my life, some of you might be able to connect with this, is when you're at the lowest point in your life, sometimes when you're at like the lowest point, you got nothing to lose. When you got nothing left to lose, pretty much, what happens to me is I go all in with audacity. And I know that's a part of the answer to, gosh, built all these great things. There's a lot of achievement here. What's the energy source behind that? And one of the things I would say, other than just good, work ethic, is audacity. Be audacious. And some people think that audacity means arrogance. No, it doesn't really. If you look up the definition, it just sort of means an abundance of So a cross between confidence and risk taking. And so,
well, you know me too, man. I'm not that audacious when it comes to new tasks. I know how to make it happen. I know how to encourage myself and gather people around me. I mean, I think I can't be as headstrong as I've seen you be and dive in and just make it happen, which is an awesome skill. Some people are that way. I realize that. For me, it was, I had encouraged everyone in my band to start teaching, but I wasn't. And they're like, why don't you teach? Like, you got us all doing this. We're making a living out. Why aren't you doing this? And I look for encouragement and say, okay, what does that look like? And I had discussions with my close friends about, well, what would that look like for me to teach? And kind of wrap my head around the idea of it. And like, okay, I can do this. I can make this happen. And I had no idea what I was doing in my first lesson. I was half of the lesson, I was on the internet searching for answers for the student that was there with me. Yeah. I mean,
but that's all I'm saying. That's it. That's just it. You had a moment of audacity. Like, yes. I really, in some sense, I have no business trying this because I've never done this before. But in the other sense, you have every business and right to give it a go. I mean, this is how great things happen, and great things are built by ideas and people that just put their nuts on the line and take a risk and go for it. I think it's easy for me to do that because it's wired in my disposition is a sense of I don't really care what people think. I've always been a bit of a rebel. You can just talk to my mom about that. I don't care if I embarrass myself. I don't care if I fail. I don't care if people laugh at me and point, and I'm sort of fearless in regards to the outcome of potential failure. I don't care. I'm just going to go forward and just go. And here's the thing. If you do that, if you just move forward fearlessly with a little bit of brass balls audacity, the thing is truly that like 8 out of 10 times, it ends up working. It may not end up working the way you had thought it would or imagined it would, because there are obstacles and things in the way that prevent you from getting to that position. Like maybe I didn't become an ear, nose, and throat specialist, but I became a licensed in vocology, which was a better path. Does this make sense? But the point is just get going, and your good ideas and your energy will take you somewhere good.
Oh, yeah. I totally get this, man. That's a lot of people second guess themselves. Heck, I second guessed myself a ton during all this. So I would say, like, what was your biggest failure that you say set you up for later success? What's your favorite failure? Let's put it that way. Because for me, like, going into all that, I would say offering free lessons and realizing how people take advantage of you, even at cheaper lessons, how I constantly got taken advantage of, until I finally charged something that I started getting respectful students. And like that alone, and then realizing in that, I realized, I can up my price as long as I'm providing the value, and I still have students. It doesn't matter what I charge, as long as I'm providing enough value to say, yes, I charge that. Yes, I know I'm expensive, but people are willing to pay me that for a reason. And that came out of constantly trying to work with the students, letting them step all over my schedule, letting them not show up, and being no call, no show on a free lesson, and then still being willing to reschedule with them. That was terrible, man.
Talk about being treated like a doormat, And so you're hitting at a big can of worms that you and I have talked about before in the past, and I think it's so critical for everybody that's offering a service. But since we're voice coaches, we'll speak directly to our colleagues. It is so critical that you create some situational awareness of what's going on. So Jaden's talking about what's going on around you, in your studio, in your domain, in regards to the direct verbal messaging, and maybe more importantly, the unconscious subliminal messaging you are putting out into your studio in regards to boundaries, in regards to who's the authority in the room, in regards to what level of seriousness are we going to engage in here, specifically practicing and commitment. And in regards to how you're going to allow yourself to be treated either overtly or subconsciously, unconsciously, as a business owner, which is what you were hitting at.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of, and I went through, by the way, I went through this process. Same thing you did.
Yeah.
Voice teachers have big hearts. They got big hearts and they get into it because they love the arts and they love singing and the music, and then sort of the high that comes from watching somebody grow and give you a compliment. Gosh, I'd love that lesson. I'm getting better. I mean, it's sort of you get a real injection of ego a little bit when you're a voice coach, especially when you start off. But along the way, what goes with you is this really big, vulnerable heart. And what happens is outside of your studio, which is a sort of protective environment for you and your students, outside of that is a world full of sharks and snakes. Now, I want to preface this by saying I don't mean that negative trait is a conscious thing. I would say we've all been a shark and a snake from time to time, maybe not even knowing it unconsciously, okay? Mm-hmm. But there's this sort of, you might say, human behavior instincts out there that if you brought it to your students' attention, they might feel apologetic, but they're not conscious of it. So I want to make sure that I'm clarifying that. But here's what happens, what Jason was saying. As voice coaches, charge what you're worth. Don't fall back and mess around with your pricing. Maybe, just maybe, a small, tiny discount for an orientation lesson, but never gotten it. Don't ever do it for free. Don't ever do it for free. Why? Okay, apart from the obvious, the other reason why you don't want to do it for free is because if you give somebody a lesson for free on an unconscious level, what you've communicated to that person is you're a pushover, you're a schmuck, and that they don't have to honor the schedule. They can cancel at the last minute. They can have a lesson, and at the end of the lesson say, "Oh, you mind if I pay you next week when I get paid?" All this sort of stuff can happen, and not only students, but parents will do it too.
I had a guy show up an hour and a half late to an introductory lesson and say, "Can we still do it?" I'm like, "Dude, I haven't heard from you." And you know what? I did it because I care about people. But now I look back, there's no way I would do that again. No way. And 6 years, 7, I don't forget how long I've been teaching now. Like, what, 8 years almost. Now that I'm that far into it, there's absolutely no way. It's like, dude, it's like if you would let me know if it was an emergency, maybe, if you're paying me, I'm willing to reschedule if I have time and you already paid for it.
Maybe there are sometimes exceptional circumstances. Okay, we reserve the right to make that choice. On occasion, we might do that. For example, just recently, about a week ago, somebody bought my program and it's complex, and I got a phone call or an email. Gosh, it's really complicated. I need help. I'm going into an audition tomorrow, and can you help me out with this? But I can't afford a private lesson. Well, take a private lesson. No, can't afford the private lesson. Okay, here's what we'll do. I'll give you 20 minutes of my time where we will go over sort of an onboarding process. It's an onboarding meeting that I have with students that allows them to get oriented with logging in and the tools of training. It's not really a lesson. It's knowing how to use the system.
Yeah.
And I thought, I'll give her 20 minutes of my time. I want to help her out. She bought my product. Okay. So I felt a little obligated because she bought something. I get an email 10 minutes before we're going to have a Zoom call. I'm sorry. I have a really important client I have to go talk to. And so can we reschedule? And I thought about it. The old, big heart, puffy heart, Rob, is still with me. And it's like, gosh, maybe, sure. But you know what? No. My response was, no. I'm busy. I've got a lot of meetings. I got people. I got things going on. I have a business I'm running here. But here's the template, and here's whatever. Go to this link.
Yeah, you still provided value. You still gave what you could.
I still gave her the thing. I just didn't give her the Zoom call. But that's an example of the sort of thing that can happen. I want to get back on point a little bit as to why I say no. And one reason why I say no, and one reason why you say no, and one reason why we want you voice coaches to establish your boundaries and learn how to say no is not only because you need to be paid, but here's what happens, and it happened to me. If you allow yourself to sort of cough up, like provide services without being paid for it or being underpaid for it, if you allow yourself to deal with those situations, if you allow yourself to act only on the big heart and not sort of protect yourself with boundaries, after years of that, it begins to grate on your soul. Makes you resent doing it. It makes you even resent teaching at some point. Because it does. Yeah. I hate to say it, but it's true. Draven and I are gonna have an honest conversation with you guys, and I know damn well that there are voice coaches out there that they're going, that's how I feel. I know. And if you feel that, if you sort of feel like you want to be respected more, okay, in your own studio, if you feel like you should be getting paid a little more in your own studio, but mostly the respect piece. This is the cause of a lot of the problems. It's not the market so much, they play a role, but it's also just you allowing yourself to be treated that way.
Yeah.
The day you stop allowing yourself to be treated in any sort of, that is anything other than, I am the maestro of my studio. What goes on in here is the rules and the law. You practice or you don't. If you're not going to practice, there's nothing I can do for you. It's my way or the highway. I am the maestro of my own domain. And by the way, I will be paid before I give you my time. These sorts of things. You establish these strict sort of rules, these tough love rules, and guess what happens? Boom. Business grows. You start feeling better about it. You're being treated with respect, as you should be. You can raise your rates, and that's.
I had a real estate investment mentor for a while. This is related. A very, very expensive mentor. And the thing that stuck with me about him and what he constantly told his students is like, look, go in hardball. Go in being a hard ass, saying these are the rules. This is the way it's going to be. It's super strict. If you mess up, you're going to be screwed because you screwed yourself. He says that up front, but then on the back end, he's like, he's willing to work with them. He's willing to make exceptions. He's if he needs to, he can fall back on what he set down at the beginning. Most of the time he doesn't. Most of the time he doesn't need to.
Yeah.
But there are those moments that I need to step back and say, look, man, I can't reschedule you. You did a no call, no show for 3 lessons in a row. Mm. The first one was an emergency. The second one was another emergency. The third one was, oh, you forgot. It's like, I can't keep doing this. It's like, you paid for your time. I'll try to give you at least one reschedule if I can, but I'm super busy. And they're like, okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
It's like, so I wasn't being hard on them on the back end. I had all that laid out on the front. You have 3 days. I think it's actually 2 days to let me know if something's happening, which is very generous. to say, I'm allowing you to reschedule within 2 days. If it's an emergency, I understand. Let's work something out. But I don't always fall back to that. I rarely need to, because most of them understand and respect my time, especially now, because I let the students go that didn't respect my time.
Yeah. And by the way, I mean, at the end of the day, the students learn.
Yeah.
They practice, they respect the studio, your time, all that stuff. And you just end up getting results that way too. So it's not only for yourself, it's literally the tough love disposition is what the student needs if they're actually going to grow.
Yeah.
And get better out of it. They need it. If you're a pushover, they don't grow. And so
tough love is holding them to a standard. And it's not, I want to make sure people understand, because I had a hard time with that term for so long, because heck, I grew up in the South. Tough love is abusive.
They takes you out back and spanks your ass with a stick.
It was worse than that. But, and I mean, I've seen horror stories come from under that term. So just to make sure that's understood, tough love means you're setting the boundaries. You're setting the boundaries, and they're still a person, and you treat them that way. You treat them with respect. You treat them with some boundaries that you expect for yourself. Expect them to treat you with. But at the same time, you're running a business, and there's only so much you can do, and they need to understand that. Whether that's laying down the law at first and saying, we're going to stick to this. I can't move on this. I'm sorry. This is what you agreed to. Or it's saying, let me work with you a bit. Let me see what I can do. There's a chance this isn't going to work out. Or once they've disrespected you, you gave them 3 strikes, you're out. You let them go. You say, I don't think this is working. Like, yeah. You do better with another teacher.
Draven introduced me to a term that I hadn't heard before until I met him, and we talked about these things. We've known each other for years, and it was, hey, I fire my students sometimes. I kind of like that. I don't, and I maybe I have too, but I didn't feel like I didn't say you're fired, but I just kind of like that. It's, I hope we're not coming off as big fat meanies.
Now, I don't tell students they're fired either. It's just like, I don't think this is working out. I think a better teacher would serve you. Or another teacher would serve you better. But yes, I fire students when I'm getting more frustration coming out of lessons with them, or dealing with them even outside of lessons, that I am building up frustration more than I am energy. Yeah. When a student energizes me, awesome. When a student exhausts me because we're working hard on something, that's great. That's awesome. When there's something, even if I can't pinpoint it, that I walk away from a lesson being like, that was the most frustrating thing ever. Once that happens, maybe 2 or 3 times, I'm like, this isn't working out. I'm not the right teacher for you. That's how I fire them.
Yep.
When a student doesn't show up and their attendance rate's at 20% because constant tragedy happens with them, it's just not working out. The time schedule's not working out here. Maybe another time. Let's revisit this in a few months and see if it works out then. So, but getting back to the question, Robert, which we get way off in left field from, what is your favorite failure that you learn the most from?
That's a really good question. There's been many. Some need not be publicized, but for our conversation, for students or for teachers, anybody that's interested in listening, you know what it was? It was. I want to say 2 things. It was what we just talked about, that sort of the personal boundaries, and then from a business perspective, it was the realization that, and the mistake that I made, which I later realized, was that I'm not pursuing business channels and avenues that are scalable.
I think that takes a while to get to. Yeah, that takes a while to come to that realization, though.
It certainly does, especially for the big, puffy heart voice coaches, that are not quite as sharky as some folks that walk among us in the real world, and I was one of those people. And I'm looking straight into you guys. I'm looking into my camera. I hope I'm connecting with you on this. Scalability, personal boundaries, and from the business perspective, the bottom line, scalability. Look for ideas and business channels that give you the ability to grow something from one unit of energy or one unit of production, be it, it's a course or it's a presentation in front of a group or what have you, you get growth. Okay, that's what we mean when we talk about scalability. And any successful business owner will tell you that.
I think that's scalable to what you're comfortable with too. Not everybody sets out to build $1 million a year business. That's also not what we're saying here. That's more scale to what you're comfortable with.
I'm not saying
if you're getting 6 to 10 students locally, then teach online. Keep scaling there. If you max out there and you're still not happy with where you're at in your business and financially and even what you're doing, then leverage that. Make courses, do group calls, work your way into the scale. You don't have to just jump in and say, yeah, a course is a great idea. Great ideas are not what you should be doing. It's scaling your business is not great ideas.
Well, if it's scalable, it's likely is a great idea in some regards or every regard, I would think. But I wrote down, for those of you that might be thinking, okay, scalability, kind of heard about it, but what does it really mean? Explain to me. I want to learn. So I wrote something down in preparation for this because I thought we'd go here. And so I'm going to give you ideas of scalability for a voice coach. There are things you can do that are available to you, and explain to you what is actually scaling in that idea. And when I get done with this list, you'll understand what scalability is. Okay. First, let's start with the one thing that's not scalable: your time.
Very limited.
Trading an hour of my time for some pay it does have an element of scalability to it. It does, but it's the least effective version, and that would be the price you charge. The element in trading time on one-on-one lessons, trading time for a lesson that is scalable is your price. I'll do it all day long if I'm making $1,000 an hour. But given that the market isn't going to pay that, it's the ability to scale. Trade my time, one-on-one time, 1 hour with one individual, is not a very good scalable model. Mm-hmm. All right. So let's talk about some that are. Online courses. Probably the best form of scalability, where you take all of your ideas and methods and things about whatever it may be. We sort of run in a crowd of voice coaches, but it could be anything. It doesn't have to be voice coaches. Take your expertise and monetize your expertise and reach more people by capturing your lectures and your teachings on video inside an online course system. Online course systems, the scalability in an online course system is the distribution. You can reach so many people around the world. This is one way I have 100,000 students from 179 different countries. Okay, because of online courses. So I highly recommend that. That'll perk you up and put a little kick in your step. Another one is butts and seats. public speaking. Scalability is how many people you can get into the room. That's the thing that's scaling, right? If you can fill a room with 100 to 1,000 to 5,000 people, and they're all, paying a fee to see your lecture, then events, public speaking, is another form of scalability, which is available to voice coaches, do master classes.
There's plenty of coaches that's a career path they chose. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a very common thing. List building or getting leads. When I talk about lists, I mean that you have a website, there's a pop-up that comes in, people give you their email, their name, and in exchange you give them some sort of freemium offer. Maybe it's a top 10 things you need to know PDF or a free course or something. But you capture emails, and then you nurture those emails through email campaigns. That's old as the hills. We've all received them. But that's another form of scalability, by capturing internet traffic and nurturing your leads. The next form of scalability, which I think is the second best form of scalability, is affiliates and partners. All right, you see a little bit of that going on right now with me and Draven. We're partners. We work together on a lot of different things in the past and currently and in the future. So when you have partners, you're duplicating the sales effort. So it's not just only you involved in sales and marketing, but you can duplicate that unlimited with affiliates and licensing deals. Next, when you can expand and duplicate yourself, you do that with team expansion. So you grow your team when you can. That's a hard thing to do. It takes capital to do that. But at some point, if you're doing these other things, which is what I've done, you will have the capital to expand your team, and then you sort of duplicate yourself.
Yep.
In some ways. You can get a virtual assistant. How many voice coaches out there would love to have a virtual assistant? Right?
Well, that can grow into having other teachers under you, building a school.
Yeah, other teachers, and it's right. There's franchising, implementation people, social media managers, all that sort of stuff. So that's a form of scalability. But it's difficult to get to because it requires capital. And online teaching. That's not so hard to get to. That's pretty easy to get to. Teaching on Zoom. So if you do Zoom calls, Zoom lessons, there's another element of scalability there.
I'm still on Skype. Yeah.
Zoom or Skype. And that is, take one good guess. Jeopardy music. Okay, I'll tell you. It's the market. It's that when you do Zoom and Skype virtual lessons, you're now are available to teach lessons to a market called the planet Earth. Yep. Okay, planet Earth, with 800 million English-speaking individuals, at least, on a planet called Earth. That's a pretty big market.
Yeah, I have students in the UK and Germany, and
yeah, of course.
I've had students in India, and like they're all over. They're all over. I have maybe 5% of my students. I guess now it's 10 because I cut my student list down, but that are actually local. And guess what? They're online too.
Yeah, all of my students and all of my online course consultation clients are virtual. So both businesses are virtual. Because I live in a little town in Idaho, a little mountain town. I live in Sun Valley, Ketchum, Idaho. And there's not a lot of big businesses. You can go walk and knock on the doors, and there's a handful. But to run any kind of business here, other than building fences and building homes for the, and that sort of thing, you're a guy like me, voice coach and a e-learning consultant. You got to go online.
Yeah.
Right. So that's sort of what scalability can look like, and those are the things you can do. So don't feel that you're limited to only trading an hour of my time for a lesson. The one-on-one model, honestly, sort of sucks. And I'll say that, and also tell you that I still do it, but not nearly as much.
I've seen hybrids as well. In fact, I've started doing that some, to where I'm like, okay, before my lesson, go through the basics section of my course before our first lesson, because that covers everything I would normally cover in a first lesson.
Yeah.
So you'll have a jump start. It takes weight off of me, honestly, because they come into it knowing what I'm talking about already without me spending an hour with them getting on the same page.
They also realize, the thing you get from that is they realize you mean business.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I'm taking lessons from Draven and Robert, and before I can even get in front of them, they require that I, study these particular modules first. That's a wonderful, beautiful thing for everybody.
And I've seen it.
And students like that, actually. By the way, students like that. They want that.
Well, I know other teachers, even guitar teachers, that'll do this, where they send out a pre-record lesson, then they have a group lesson, and then they offer private lessons for those students as well. So you have this hybrid going on. Here's a lesson. We're all going to talk about this in our group. Now, who needs individual attention? Let's do that. Or who needs breakouts? If you're talking on Zoom especially, there's a breakout room. Help each other out. It's almost like doing a live event, just virtually. So there's hybrids of all these things that you can do.
Mm-hmm. Even in the online course, the e-learning world, there's a hybrid. It's literally called the hybrid course. And when I first started, I didn't know there was such a thing as a hybrid course. And then I started doing this and helping people make online courses. And I realized, there's a thing called hybrid course. It's a course curriculum, instructional design plan that includes both the digital element. You go in, you watch a video, you do some, you're interfacing with a website. And then you break away from that for a moment and you go do like a group call. Okay. Or you go check in with butts and seats. And then you go back to the course. So it's like the hybrid learning method.
You have some aspects of that in the Vocalist Studio as well. Because we do Q&As once in a while, because we have the Facebook group that we're very active on.
Yeah, that's a good point. That sort of looks like hybrid training, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, they're not just in the course and that's it. They're part of the community that the instructors are there. Yeah. And there's other experts that are there as well. Mm-hmm. So
in some sense, the new membership business that you and I are building together is, and you look at that stack of services like group calls and review your singing and some of the things, the fun, exciting things we're going to be doing in the new year for TVS students and teachers, is that's almost the introduction of the hybrid piece, isn't it? So you have the digital with the hybrid piece inside.
Yeah.
Provided that
I do want to speak to that. One thing in scalability that I noticed, especially just going online, and a lot of people are afraid of the competition. Like that's putting you locally. You can hand out flyers. You can connect with people one-on-one. But you go online now. You're looking at advertisements. Doesn't have to be that way. The biggest thing was that even in rock singing lessons, my business going into it was knowing my ideal client, knowing where they hung out, what they were interested in, who they were, what they liked, what they didn't like, like really knowing who that was I was trying to speak to, that I connect with. Yeah. And just like people that like Bon Jovi versus Iron Maiden versus Stained, you're unique. Every vocal coach is unique in that way.
Yes. Yeah.
And different people connect with us in different ways.
Yeah.
In fact, I've given some of my students that came to me, it's like, look, we're not connecting really well here, but I know a teacher you will connect with. Let me send you over to them. I've done that before. Mm-hmm. Because they needed that different style. When you and I got a write-up, we on a blog about a review for our courses. That's one thing that stood out to me that he really focused on in that review. It's like, I'm very buddy style, and he didn't like that much, like sitting in your living room with you, teaching you how to sing, and how he really liked your structure. He liked how you were much more structured in what you were doing, and very like, here's the information, let's drill it. very different flavor. And knowing who you're trying to reach and who you connect with the most is super important in that. That's why my business is called Rock Singing Lessons, and why I only put $50 into advertising a month and I'm still full. I mean,
well, you're referring to the customer avatar, right? So when we have marketing discussions with marketing people, some of you out there will hear this term that's tossed around. It's the customer avatar. And it's what Draven's referring to, the profile of your customers, and understanding what that is, because it enables you to tailor your content and your advertising and your copy messaging on websites and your email sequences and everything for that avatar.
And it's not just an age group. It's, I think the big life changer, even in the bands I've coached over the years, it's like, who is it that you connect with and that you naturally draw to you as well? Who are they? Like, what do they like? What do they dislike? Where do they hang out? Getting that deep in a customer avatar so that it's your customer avatar, not a customer avatar. I think that's helped more than anything else in my business, which begs the question, what about the vocalist studio? Because you built, I imagine at first you were probably more focused on a particular type of client that then grew into, as you grew your empire, now you can appeal to almost anybody.
That's a great question. The book, The 4 Pillars of Singing, used to be called The 4 Pillars of Screaming.
I remember that.
And the early version. I went with that for a handful of years.
I had a binder. I think I had the binder version.
You have one of the old school little black Kinko's one. Yeah, that's awesome. You got one of those. Anybody that's got the old school black Kinko's versions, 4 Pillars of Screaming, keep it. Because as an artist, when I sing as an artist, I will sing anything that's great and fun, actually. But I guess I have a soft heart for metal and prog and stuff. So, especially when I was younger, probably more diversified these days. But I thought, that was my disposition. That's where I was coming from. So 4 Pillars of Screaming with that. And then one day I just realized, I think I kind of had an aha moment. I thought, that may be sort of who I am. Therefore, that's who I think I want to, that's the messaging I want to send out. And I realized, but no, I'm running a business. I'm running a business here. And singing isn't only about rock and metal, okay? It's all kinds of styles, right? And so let's open it up to everybody. And that was my take on it. And I changed the avatar. That was when I first started thinking about changing the avatar. Today, it's really, the avatar is really quite broad. It's rock, metal, jazz, theater, soul, singing students, singing teachers, and now business training for teachers. So there's a lot of avatars going on.
I started out with just rock as well, like just rock. And I had to expand what that meant, mainly because my business is called Rock Singing Lessons. But where I had to say it's all types of rock. And when I do calls with people, when they call me to inquire about it, I'm like, I have students from 12 to 72 singing classic rock to modern, like, deathcore. Like, it's all over the place. But it's rock. And I still don't teach classical. I teach jazz. I teach some jazz singers. My main advertising, though, and the people I connect with the most is within the rock realm, but that's a wide range of things as well.
It is. Yeah,
but I started out much more concise. I teach screaming and modern metal screams, screamo. That's what I did. And then I let it grow into something else. I didn't try to be all things to all people at the beginning because I wasn't getting anybody when I tried to do that.
Well, it grew into something else because you grew into something else.
Yeah. Yeah, I can totally see that. So I do want to address, we only have like 10 minutes left here. There's a very important question here, especially in times being as they are right now.
Yeah.
And that when we feel overwhelmed or unfocused, what do? It's so easy to get overwhelmed and lose energy over it right now. Just from the general climate of things right now. So just when it comes to business, when it comes to being a vocal coach and the motivation, the energy, the overwhelm or the focus, how do we maintain focus in this? What have you been doing?
Being overwhelmed by what factors? The threat of a virus or the threat of business?
I think the biggest part of it is, and I've seen people deal with anxiety over the virus and stuff too, but I'm more talking about everything's different right now.
Yeah.
Teachers have been forced to go online or shut down.
Yes.
Teachers that had studios have been forced to shut down the studios and figure out another way to do it.
Yes.
There's kind of a scramble for, we got to figure out something.
That's right.
And in that same environment, those of us that were already teaching online are like, okay, what's going to happen when all these people don't have money anymore? So that there's always these looming things that I think right now are more amplified than they normally would be.
Okay, I can help you with that. You reinvent yourself. You get first of all, get out of your own way. The past is gone. And even if certain elements of the past come back one day, it'll never come back the same. We're never going to get back to exactly the way things were. It's just not going to happen. Because even when the bug is gone and other things, it's the fact that companies are getting things done and remaining productive and lowering their overhead with reimbursing people from flying around the world and all the time and energy and expense that takes has all been removed because people learned how to get in front of a Zoom camera. So my point in this is, one day when everything sort of seems to be settled back, it's still going to be very much a virtual training, virtual meeting world. That's just one example of how I believe things will permanently change.
Is there anything you've had to do specifically to stay on top?
So it's sort of trying to make an example lead up to what I've done. Yeah, so I'm trying to do things radically different, and I'm embracing it. I'm updating the Vocalist Studio into offering a marketplace of TVS courses, which would include Draven's courses. That's a whole new thing for me, where the Vocalist Studio isn't only going to be about Robert and his courses anymore. Been there, done that. It's great. It's a nice ride. Going forward in the next few weeks, it's going to be about a company that offers a suite or a marketplace of courses that include mine, but like 10 other people and growing. We're also going to get into memberships, where there's a stack of additional values that people can receive. So in this hybrid training example that Draven and I were talking about for a subscription. I'm not trying to sell you this at the moment. I'm just trying to say these are radical changes in my own business that I'm embracing. And I don't have all the answers, and it's scary and it's expensive, but I'm doing it anyways. Because I don't want to sit here and keep doing what I've been doing.
It's coming back to the very beginning of what we talked about, audacity.
Yeah, and I just gotta say, and the other thing that's really put a kick in my step, and I hope that this will inspire you, is that there's the voice coach, but then I've been doing that for 30 years. And personally, I'd like a new challenge. I'd like to do some other things too, and I can do other things. Javen mentioned that. So I thought to myself, I took inventory and I thought, okay, well, what are the other things that I can do? Well, I do online courses. That was successful. What does it take to build an online course? Well, you got to make storyboards. You got to know how to get in front of a camera. You got to understand platforms. You got to understand social media marketing. You got to understand traffic, capturing and nurturing and all that jazz. And long story short, just about the same time the bug hit, I launched a second business called CourseCREEK Consulting. If you go to CourseCREEK.com, you can see that website. And it's an online consultation firm. It's a firm, me and others, but we're helping educators, companies, and anybody with a good idea learn how to build online courses and get that scalability that I've been talking about today. So those are examples of audacity, taking risks.
It's courage, yeah, totally.
I think so. I think courage and just literally putting my nuts on the line and just going, man, let's just go. Like it's all or nothing, go forward. And again, I know because of my past experience that if I do that, 8 out of 10 things are going to work well. And yeah, it's going well. So I encourage people to do that. Let the past go. Whatever that may be, small things, big things, embrace new ideas and charge forward. It's
scary. It's scary. I had to do the same thing.
Reinvent yourself.
Yeah, it's a scary thing to do, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I think you're calling audacity. I would call courage or bravery. I like courage better, but courage and audacity, they fit well together. When I looked at my schedule and I'm saying I'm getting overwhelmed because I'm trying to start this new thing, and I have a full student schedule.
Yeah.
And people have already heard me talk about this some, but I had to let a lot of students go, and I raised my prices just so I could free up a day to work on this thing that's, I think, is going to provide a lot more value to a lot more people.
Mm-hmm.
That was scary. That was really scary when I'm in a point right now where my students don't know if they're going to have money next month. They don't know if they'll have a job. Most of them don't have jobs right now. So they're relying on unemployment that they're not sure is going to be there. Yeah. That's scary to say. I can give you alternatives for another teacher, but I don't have the time in my schedule right now. I think you'd be better served with another teacher right now. And then look through my other students that haven't been paying my current prices and saying, I've got to up my prices, guys. I have to. This is what I've been charging. I'll give you a little bit of a deal on that, but I've got to up the prices. The whole time in my mind thinking, how many of them are going to leave because I charge too much now? How many am I going to lose over that? And am I still going to be able to pay my bills while I'm trying to build this new thing? That's scary. That's scary. And you know what? It worked out
fine.
Worked out just fine.
Coaches, consultants, anybody, raising your fees is a scary thing. I've done it before. And I've had, I've helped other voice coaches. I've had this conversation with people. I gave him a hand with Draven a few times. I scolded him a few times.
We've coached each other on that some too.
Like, no, you work on that. But I've done this where you raise the prices, and it's a little bit terrifying. You think people are going to run away, but the truth is, really, honestly, I probably raised my prices 4 or 5 times in the last 30 years, and product and lessons, and people don't go away. Actually, they things do happen. You sort of get a more committed student. Okay, so you get a benefit from that, it seems, because people, they pay more, they're going to be committed more, a more reliable student. And as far as the amount of students, pretty much the same. If it's less, I'm still making the same amount of money.
Yeah, I've lost a couple students. I've lost a couple students over the price raise. That's understandable, but I've gained a couple new students at the same price. So,
I mean, overall, at the end of the experience, when everything settles, I've seen it in other coaches, seen it myself. You step back 3 or 4 months later and you look back at the decision and you realize, oh, actually things sort of settled out and it was okay. That's one of the first big, courageous things a coach can do if they're going to go down this path of scalability and changing things around. One of the first things I would recommend that you do is seriously take a heartfelt look at what you're billing. Generally speaking, voice coaches don't charge enough. They don't charge enough. They need to bill higher. And if you do that, it'll be okay.
And when my students are leaving for another reason, because they're dealing with financial struggles or whatever, I'll ask them. I have like an exit interview basically, where I just ask them and say, I'm obviously not going to be raising prices on you, but I'm curious, coming into this, knowing what it is and what you experienced, what would you have been willing to pay for this? I actually asked them.
That's cool.
And that's how I set my prices, honestly, because I'm getting the market to tell me what the price is.
Yeah, great. Yeah. And that takes courage too, to ask a question, to ask your students, to give you a little bit of marketing feedback takes some nuts. It's a small piece, but I think it's a good example of being a little bit audacious. It reminds me of something that I've been doing for years that has, I think, paid off, and that is if a student says, and it happens to all of us as coaches, they say, gosh, I've really learned so much from this. I've gotten so much out of this. This has been great. I'm singing better. Thank you so much. Voice coaches, we get this a lot. And for the last 5 or 6 years, my program response on that is, I really appreciate that you're happy. That warms my heart. But I'm going to begin completely straight with you. The best way you can thank me is to tell others. That's how we keep going. That's how I keep making more courses, and I can keep being available to you.
That reminds me of another thing that I see. Go ahead.
Yeah, tell other people, but literally make a video. Don't spend a lot of time. Don't kill yourself. Just hold smartphone steady in front of you and just tell your story.
Yeah, I need more videos too, man.
I met Robert. I thought he was crazy. I didn't quite get where he was coming from, but I tried it. Whatever that is, tell the story, what happened, the improvement, and what you're achieving now through the training program. Voice coaches do that. Go out to my website, thevocallystudio.com, and click on the link in the nav bar that says testimonials. You need to ask for testimonials from your clients when they are praising your work. And it's okay. When I first started doing that, it felt weird. It felt a little awkward, but I forced myself. And what happened was, one, I got used to it. Two, I realized the students are totally into it. They're okay. Yeah, students are like, I'd love to do that. Oh, what a great idea. I'll get one out to you. They have fun with it. So dude, that's one small, cool idea that every voice coach can do. And if you're not doing that, then you need to start doing that.
I think that leads into as well one thing, and we need to wrap up here, but one thing concerning a first lesson. It's one thing to have clients that are excited about what you've been doing with them and ask them for a review. And like you said, they're into it. They really are. It's another when it's a first lesson, and I've seen so many teachers struggle with this. I did it first. It was awkward at first. Okay, they enjoy it. It's like, now you need to sell them. You need to ask if they want to take more lessons.
Yeah. It's
not as scary as it seems. It's scary going into it, but it's as easy as asking, say, is this something you want to continue? That's all you have to ask. It doesn't have to be some big daunting task of, okay, well, I charge this per hour. Are you okay with that? And it's like, no, just ask. Is this something you want to continue? If they say yes, it's like, cool. Let's do it. Let's set up the next lesson.
You don't come straight out with confidence on that and sort of him and hawing a little bit about it, like you were just describing. If you do that, you're showing weakness. We're back to the other discussion we were talking about. You're subliminally, you're communicating, I don't really believe in what I'm asking you, but I sort of feel like I need to, but I'm not fully sold myself on the idea. No.
The more you do it, the more confident you'll be in it.
Yeah.
Because it's really just as easy as asking, is this something you want to continue? I grew into not wanting to teach weekly students. No, I didn't want to do that anymore because it's hard to reschedule them when I have to. So I teach twice a month. And when I go into that pitch, I actually say this. So I'm giving away a bit of a secret here, is so it's something you want to continue. Like, yeah, cool. I said, well, I know 4 times a month's a little expensive. How do you feel about 2 times a month? Mm-hmm. I just allayed one of their fears. I just kind of let that go. It's like, yeah, that's really expensive. How about this lesser one? And I think you'll have more time to practice. We'll be able to reschedule you sometimes.
I have a similar script, and it goes something like this, because students always ask us, don't they? You guys know they do. Well, great. I had a lot of fun. I got a lot out of that. I'm excited. How often should I do this?
Yep, I hear that all the time.
Yeah, we all get that. How often should I do this? The answer that I give them is, going to be completely straight up and honest with you, and it's the true answer. If you're practicing, if you're doing the things that I showed you today, and the things that are in the book and the course, and you practice your homework, and this is a team effort, and we work together, and it's in your budget, get in front of me once a week. Absolutely, if you can. If you can't afford that, if that's not in your budget, get in front of me once every 2 weeks. That's also pretty good and common. If that's not in your budget, but you still want to do this, no less than once every 3 weeks. No less than once every 3 weeks. If you get beyond like once a month, then my experience, you're no longer connected with them. They sort of get distracted and fade away and don't practice as much after the second week. And then, yes, you get in front of that student a month later, and you're retraining and repeating yourself, which adds to the madness of the career path of being a voice coach. So every week, every 2 weeks, great. If you don't have a lot of dough, at least every 3 weeks for the first 90 to 120 days, just so you can build the motor skills.
Yep. And then every 4 weeks I discourage, just because I don't want the scheduling issues that come with that. Yeah. But I know that I tell them, I said, if that's what you want, you will get the most out of it. But I question them on that. And what happens is those that sign up for 4 times a month, they're on it. I get the best students in that because I tried to discourage them and they insisted. Those that do once a month with me, there are a couple that do that. It's because they couldn't afford me. And I'm like, get in my course and then check in with me once a month. Yep. And let's go over what you've learned.
Of course, there's always
there's a scalability thing there too. Yep. You can get in my course. You can afford that. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, especially some of these platforms we're on. And I'm itching to put this out too as well. I don't mind going over a little bit. Hopefully people are getting value out of this. And that is, I don't sell the notion or the idea of taking or paying for more lessons. The message being, well, you want to take more lessons. What I want to bring to their attention really is what they're going to gain, the benefits, the advantage of continuing with this. So if you continue with this, my script, my role play might be, well, if we're going to continue with this, well, I mean, we all understand it costs more money. They know what the price is. Don't even have to talk about that. That's sort of, we all get that. So let's not focus on that because it's not really the thing we need to be focusing on. If you want to continue to work, here's what's going to happen. If you make that investment in time and money, here's what's going to happen for you. If you do the things that I tell you to do and you train and you practice, because this is a team effort, I guarantee you that you will have transformative results in about 90 to 120 days based on how much time you can put into it. But you're going to have to put in at least 30 to 120 minutes per session, 3 to 6 days a week for 90 to 120 days. Again, if you do what I tell you to do, you read the book, you go to the course, you do the homework and all of that, this will transform your voice forever. So if I told you.
I say something very similar.
And I say this, if I told you that if you spent $1,300 on 6 lessons, one time, $1,300, and in 6 lessons, you would learn what you need to know for the rest of your life to train, to become absolutely radically better, like bridge passaggio, sing in the head voice, no more pushing, do all the things, belting in the head voice. If I told you that for $1,300 and 6 lessons for the rest of your life, you'd be able to sing better, would it be worth it to you?
That's a good question. That's a little different than I'd say it, but it's very similar.
And just shut up.
Yep. And biggest thing on a close, you just said it right there. Shut up. Just shut up. Let there be awkward silence. Let them feel the air, not you.
Okay.
They will talk themselves into it or out of it.
Yep. Well, if they, what I just sold, by the way, it's real. I'm not selling snake oil here. I mean, it actually does. That it actually does work. It does. You really singers.
Oh, and you have the testimonials. You have you have plenty of proof.
It's real. So it's perfectly fine to. I'm trying to help somebody. So in a sense, the question really was, wasn't it? How much does this mean to you?
Yeah.
I mean, you have the course, you have the program, you have the teacher, you have the tough love coach that's not going to let you fail if you're working hard. You have everything you've done prior to this got you to this moment. You have everything you need. So it's down to how much do you want it? Here's what it's going to take, how much time and work it's going to take. Here's what it's going to cost. Here's what you're going to get out of it. How much do you want it?
Yeah.
Some people just don't want it.
Well, and those that
most people do though.
Yeah. Those that argue with me on it, like, you're really expensive. I'm like, yes, I am. You have to ask yourself why people pay me that. It's not being cocky. It's like, I know I get results, like, and that's why you're here.
It's a good answer for that. Yeah. I guess. I mean, depends on who you're talking to, I guess. But okay. Hopefully you guys got some benefit out of that. Draven,
yeah, thank you.
Great today. Look at that. You're all sharp dressed, looking sharp. Awesome.
Yeah, sport my new wardrobe. But yeah, thanks for being a part of this, man. I'm looking forward to many more of these with other teachers as well. And your partner in this, I thought it'd be really cool to have the first conversation with you because of how far you've gone with your business already.
Well, I'm honored to be invited into your show, and it's been also an honor and a wonderful journey in the last, I don't know how many years it's been now, 5 or 6 years that we've been friends and partners. And we couldn't put the responsibility of the shows and the teacher program and other things that we're doing together in the hands of anybody else. You're the guy.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Yeah, it's just awesome to have you as a friend and a partner. And so let's just keep going and helping people out.
Yeah. So I guess thanks for everybody watching this, and we'll see you next time.